Now let's have a look at your mouse button setup. Now the setup is based on a normal standard mouse with a left button, a right button and a wheel. So we start off with the wheel. The wheel itself, if I scroll back, then it means I'm going to zoom out. If I scroll the wheel forward, then it means I'm going to zoom in. If I hold down my wheel, then it means I can pan my drawing to the left or to the right, up or down, doesn't matter. So that is when it comes to scroll forward or scroll back. Then let's look at the settings itself. So if I go to configure at the top and I go down to mouse button setup, you will see by default my left single click is set to object selection. So what that means is as soon as I move my pointer over an object and I left click, then it will select the object. So if I move my pointer over the text, I left click, it's selected. So it keeps it selected till you're going to press escape. Then you can do multi-selection. In other words, if there is no object in the vicinity of your pointer, you can left click and you will see that Caddie will start with a selection box. But when it comes to the basics, you can select from left to right or right to left. Now if I select from left to right, the rule says it will select whatever is in the vicinity of this rectangle or the square. So if I left click, as you can see, it selects the text and the lines as well as the rectangle, the polyline. If I select from right to left, it will select whatever is in the vicinity of the box as well as what it touches, as you can see. So if I left click, it selects the circle as well as the polyline. So that's when it comes to your selection. Your left click, a single selection, or you can start with a selection box. So let's go back to the configure, mouse button setup. The left double click. Now that is set by default to pattern selection. At any stage we can change it, but we're just going to cover the standard settings at the moment. So pattern selection means is that what I did is I've created the pattern. I took the circle and the square and I made a pattern. So what that means is I'm going to double left click either on the square, double left click, you will see it will do a pattern selection. If I double click on the circle, because the square is also part of the circle, the same pattern, then it will select the pattern. If I go back to my mouse button setup, my right single click, that is set to context sensitive menu. So what that means is you will see that there's a difference between when something is selected and when nothing is selected. Now at the moment nothing is selected, so if I right click, it's the CSM, the context sensitive menu, you will see that you will have a zoom box, you have your freehand snap mode, you've got auto snap. Later on we're going to cover the auto snap, because the auto snap is a combination of all these snaps. As you can see here, the additional snaps. We're going to do an exercise now because you want to snap to an endpoint, you want to snap to an intersection, you want to snap to the circle center, or you want to go normal to a line, that means perpendicular. So all those snaps is defined under the additional snap modes. Then we've got object properties, where you can query object properties of an object. We've got layering and display on the CSM. You want to switch on and off certain layers. You want to show all the layers. When it comes to your UCS on the 3D side, you're going to work with your UCS, that's your user coordinate system. So that is all part of your CSM, your context sensitive menu. Now as soon as the object is selected and I right click, you'll see now it looks slightly different in such a way that now you've got a move, a copy, a rotate, a scale, a mirror and an offset, as well as your 3D modify. Those are all part of as soon as an object is selected. So let's say I want to go offset, I can select the object, this is a line, I can right click, I can go down and I can ask Caddie for an offset. Let's make the offset 2500. I'm going to say OK, and Caddie will ask me indicate side of offset. So once again with the left click, I'm going to indicate on what side of the line I would like to go offset. Press escape, and as you can see, it took my active pen color and the line style and it created the offset from an existing line. We go back to configure, we go back to mouse button setup, we can look at your right double click. Your right double click, that's user defined. What we're going to do is we're going to double right click on the line. So if I go to the settings, it means on my left hand side, if I now go to lines, it means that as my category is set to draw lines and my command will be draw joint lines. So if I'm going to say close, and I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to double right click on the line, Caddie will ask me indicate line start. So let's do an exercise together. So I can left click, activate the command. Now I would like to snap to the center of the circle. Now because I'm in freehand mode, I do not get a signal to snap to the middle of the circle. That's why now we're going to right click, activate the CSM, And under my additional snap modes, I'm going to ask Caddie, I would like to snap to the center of the circle. So I'm going to left click, and now Caddie will ask me indicate circle, arc, ellipse or curved wall. So anywhere around the circle, I can left click and it will snap to the center of the circle. Now I would like to go perpendicular to the line on the left hand side. So at the moment there's no signal, so I'm going to right click, additional snap mode, and we go down and there's an option that says normal to line. So I'm going to say left click on the normal to line. Caddie will ask me indicate the endpoint. So as soon as I move my pointer, you will see that I will get a signal. As soon as I get the signal, I can left click. It means that will be perpendicular to that point. And now I would like to close my triangle. So at the moment I'm freehand, I don't get a signal. So if I right click to activate my CSM, under my additional snap modes, I can go and ask Caddie, let's snap to an endpoint. So activate the endpoint snap mode, and as you can see, as soon as I get the signal, I can left click, and now I can press escape and it cancels the command. At any stage, you can modify your mouse button setup. So if I go back to the mouse button setup, I can ask Caddie, my left double click, because you may be not working with patterns, I can ask Caddie, let's put user defined on my left double click. And let's have a look and see. If I go to my settings, when it comes to my text, so on my left hand side, I'm going to scroll down to my M text. As soon as I select my M text, it means if I'm going to double left click now, Caddie will edit existing text. So I'm going to say close. As you can see, my left double click is set to user defined. I say OK, F for freehand, and now if I double left click on my text, it goes into edit mode and allows you to edit the text. So that's when it comes to your left click, your right click, and your wheel itself.